Hi, Ryan O'Connell from How To ADU, and I'm in a different location. I've ditched my nerdy bookshelves for the green room in an LA space. We're going to be on a rooftop later. It's all very Los Angeles, but I can get used to it. We're going to do a short talk today about 3 ways to know if your ADU professional is legit. Is your contractor legit? Is your modular provider legit? And this is a question I get all the time. People are just like, hey, I started talking to this one company, are they real? And that's kind of a funny question, but it comes up a lot in this accessory dwelling unit space because there's so many new players in the market, so much of the regulation is changing on a regular basis, and I want to give you the tools to be able to do some of this legwork on your own, answer this question for yourself, and then if you need to do more advanced research, you know who to come to for the next steps. We're going to talk about 3 different techniques or schools of techniques. One is really easy and you can do it from your computer. It's kind of using some of the tech tools and some just basic stuff on the internet to look into somebody for the first time before doing business with them. The second school is more old school. It's like, you know, interviews and referrals and just due diligence, doing your legwork. And I'll give you some tips that you might not be familiar with if it's your first time developing a house project. And then the third camp is, man, this is complicated. Can I just pay somebody to do this for me? And we'll talk about some of your options there. Okay, so for the tech tools, it's really important, in particular for accessory dwelling units, because so many businesses are new to the scene, and it's important to be able to tell an experienced startup that's done this a million times from somebody who's brand new and kind of in that vaporware stage. I think every business starts somewhere. So it's not necessarily bad that you're working with a new company. I myself am new to the space, but it's really important that that company be honest about their level of experience and where they are in the process so that they set your expectations correctly. And so this first round of techniques will help you suss out some of the people who might be overstating their level of experience in the ADU space. From startup land, I know I live in Napa, but that's the San Francisco Bay Area, and my background before accessory dwelling units was a startup, nakedwines.com, and so I've kind of got a little arsenal of tools to look into people who talk a big game and just know, okay, where are you in that startup journey? And I'm surprised at how often that my old toolkit has been really relevant in the ADU space. So one of the fundamental things here is ironically, startups are usually putting a lot of information about themselves out there because they're trying to raise money, they're trying to develop business relationships, they're hiring usually, and so they need to put a lot of information out about their company. It's just not in the places you might look. So if you learn about websites like Crunchbase or how to do basic resumes, like job description searches to see what kind of positions they're hiring for, you'll learn a lot about a company relatively quickly. I'm putting up a slide here from Crunchbase just so that you're familiar with it. It's a database that helps kind of monitor the venture capital space. And here, this is a slide for an ADU startup called Mighty Buildings. And I'll draw your attention to 2 key points. One is the number of employees, and so you see 51 to 100 employees. That's a relatively large company already, and total funding amount at 30 million. Now, these numbers aren't always 100% accurate, but as a ballpark, they're a good benchmark indicator. And I've been to their office. I believe these numbers, and all that's to say, it's neither good nor bad. It's just you're already dealing with a company that has over 50 employees, so it's real. And at the same time, you're dealing with a relatively young company, where if you dig into the Crunchbase stuff, you can see when they were raising that money and how many years they've been in business. And you know, spoilers, it's not a long time. They're in startup mode. So if that excites you and you want to work with a young company that's got some clout and they're not going to disappear overnight because they've raised some money, then you know, this checks all the boxes. If you want to work with a leaner outfit that's still like under 10 employees, or an outfit that's got years and years and years of construction experience, you know, they might have hired somebody like that, but it doesn't look on face like that's the description of their company. So you know, just something to keep in mind. On the other hand, sometimes you'll find companies that are clearly very, very early startup days, still trying to find a lot out about themselves, and you know, they could they could exist in a week or they could not exist in a week. And that's an important thing to know before handing them, $100,000. You don't want to be cash negative with a business that might not be very mature yet. Another really easy tip that you're probably familiar with already is check out LinkedIn. Once you get the founder's name or a couple top employees, it's actually really easy to find them and look at what they're claiming their job experience is. They tend not to futz too much with their work history, and so you'll see, maybe you'll discover that they're still working at another business, or maybe you'll discover that the business has only existed since July of this year. And these are real examples that have happened when I'm looking up companies for customers. So can't hurt to just give it a peek, check it out yourself, do a little social media stalking, and see where this company's at. The other point is kind of, this is super basic, but if there are pictures of finished projects on their website, that's a good sign. If all the pictures are stock photography, it's kind of a flag, right? Like, you want to look into that. A lot of websites are covered with beautiful 3D renderings and a lot of stock photography. And you want to dig into that a little bit more and see for yourself what's going on. It's kind of that Pixar didn't happen mentality, right? That's important. If you don't know how to detect a stock photo, it's pretty straightforward. They look a little generic. Here's a slide from a project. Somebody earlier in the year asked me, hey, can you look into this modular company? And I hadn't heard of them. This happens to me about once a day, which is why I'm creating this video. So I look up the modular company, and they've got a bunch of stock photography on their website, this slide included, very generic sounding customer testimonial, and something about this looks fishy, so do a reverse image search, and sure enough, this is a stock photo being used all over the internet. This is not a real customer testimonial, it is not a real customer photo, and it's easy for you to figure that out on your own. You don't have to hire a consultant to do a reverse image search. I'll just show you how to do it right now. So this is a Facebook post from a company that does ADUs. As you can see, I blurred out a lot of the information about the company. I'm not here to poo-poo anybody, but this is a company that does ADUs. This is a Facebook post where they say, like what you see, we can make your dreams come true. And I do like what I see, except I think it's a stock photo. So what I'll do is I will pop it, I will download that picture or take a screenshot of it. I will then go to images.google.com and I will click the little camera icon next to the search bar, and I will choose to upload a photo. You can also paste in a URL if you don't want to download the photo. And then when I hit search, I will choose all sizes. There's a little thing that says find other sizes of this image. So I hit all sizes, and right away I am going to see the search results for dozens of other web pages all over the internet using this image. So there you go. Clearly, they just pulled this picture off of a stock photo website. Now, if this is a company that says they can make my ADU dreams come true if I like what I see in the image, and they have not made that image come true, that's a yellow flag at the very least, and maybe a red flag, right? And again, this is stuff that you can do on your own. Now you know how. Images.google.com, reverse image search. All right, now some old school techniques. I think this takes a little bit more legwork, a little bit more detective work, but this is a very important way to suss out who you're about to work with. In my opinion, nothing beats actually visiting a completed accessory dwelling unit and meeting the customer who built that unit. You want to meet the owner and you want to ask them 3 questions. Would you recommend this ADU professional, this builder, this modular provider to a friend? If you could have done anything differently, what would it be? Were there any big surprises? And really, you kind of know right away whether they had a good experience or a bad experience. Everybody's different, so you're also going to need to be able to parse out, like, is this person just a plaintive individual? Or are the concerns that they're sharing really well-founded? If they're open to more questions, it doesn't hurt to go into details about the specifics on, like, the timeline. How long did the contractor say it would take? How long did it actually take? What about cost? How much did they say it would cost? How much did it end up costing? And how good the communication was. Hey, what did they say your access to them would be, and how much did they claim that they would communicate with you? And did they live up to that, or did they communicate less than that, or did they beat your expectations of that communication? Another really cool tool is a license check. In the state of California, you can pop over to the California State website, which I'll link to in the description below, and you just pop in their name, their business name, or their license number, and it'll tell you whether they're currently licensed and it's up to date, what classification of license they have, and whether they're bonded and whether they have workers' comp, and important things like that. If a contractor doesn't give you a license number, frankly, I say politely insist or politely walk away. This happens to me very frequently when I'm looking into contractors for my subscribers. If a contractor isn't really excited to share their license number with you, that's kind of a yellow flag, maybe a red flag. They should want to share that with you so that you can look them up and see they're legit. If they are evasive or defensive, you know, I'm the kind of person who's going to be asking a lot of questions throughout the process, and if they're meeting the first easiest request with that level of evasiveness or defensiveness, it's probably not a good relationship. I'm probably going to pass on it, and that's an important step. If you run into people who are not directly refusing, but they're evasive, they're like, oh, I'll send it to you later, and then they never do. Or they say, I work with another contractor, he doesn't like giving out his number, or I don't want to give out his license number. All that's weird, frankly, and just like politely insist or politely walk away. This happens all the time too. There's a lot of people out there who work unlicensed and who prefer to work that way. You're building a house when you're building an ADU, and I just cannot recommend strongly enough that you work with a state licensed professional. Another step I take for some of my customers is a basic permit check. A builder will say, oh yeah, I'm working on 3 ADUs right now in your town, in your jurisdiction. And I'll say, great, what are the addresses? And then some local jurisdictions allow me to use their web portal to look up the permit for that project. Sometimes they'll tell me who the contractor is on it. You would be surprised, sometimes people claim projects belong to them that don't. The other thing is you can just drive by that address and see what the work looks like. Don't go trespassing without permission, but you can check that the address is there and that there's a project going on. This varies a lot from one jurisdiction to another, so I'm not going to show the exact steps, but you can do this online in a lot of jurisdictions. If you're particularly brave, you can find your local jurisdiction's planning permit portal and look up the permits for yourself. A good hint is even if there's no permit history lookup tool, sometimes there's a tool that allows you to submit for a permit online, and that one will have some search functionality built in, so you can kind of use it to see what permits are out there. So some local jurisdictions will let you look up the contractor who's on the project. Others don't include that information. If that information is excluded, you can still look it up by property address, like street address, and figure it out that way, as long as the contractor has told you a couple street addresses that they've done projects on. And one other really key thing is the contract or agreement that the contractor proposes to you. For example, you wouldn't want to work with a contractor who wants to be paid 100% cash up front. That's a red flag. Generally, terms will include an initial payment, often a payment in conjunction with the delivery of materials to the site, and then a payment schedule that keeps you paying as you can verify that work has been completed. And if they're not willing to work with major project milestones as a benchmark for payment, then that's kind of a sign that something's off. They should be okay working that way because they expect to complete the project on a certain schedule. If somebody wants too much money up front, that's a yellow flag, maybe a red flag, and it's not a great sign. All right, lastly, you got an option to say, this is all overwhelming. I don't want to spend hours and hours interviewing contractors and doing online research. So you can just pay a professional. People like Rogelio, who's organizing the ADU Summit that this video is a part of, have things like Carfax for contractors. They'll do all the interviews, permit checks, license checks for you, and tell you, give you a score for any given contractor. There are contractor networks like Great Build or Realm that will vet contractors for you and then hook you up. And generally they'll take a percentage from the contractor, so there's no charge from them to you. There are marketplace sites like Builty and Banner and other startups that will promise to provide a marketplace where you can find a bunch of contractors, have them competitively bid against each other. And finally, me. There are consultants who charge hourly rates and help you with some of the legwork. That's especially good if you want to do a hybrid approach where you're comfortable doing most of the work, but then you have like a couple outstanding questions about just one specific contractor that you're on the verge of working with. I have a lot of free educational tools too for the most commonly asked questions, videos like this one. I have videos showing popular modular providers so that you can check into them and see what they're up to and see that they're real. And then I can recommend contractors in your area, and I'll always be transparent if I have a working relationship with them, how I've worked with them, whether they compensate me for introducing them to clients like you. That's a lot. That's how you can look into your contractor, your modular provider, or your ADU professional and know they're legit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, I have a lot of free educational videos on YouTube under How to ADU. Everything from beginner level, what is an ADU, to advanced, who do I talk to about my solar panel exemptions under Part 6 of Title 24. So check it out, and please visit my website, share your project with me, howtoadu.com. And thank you so much for building an ADU or thinking about an ADU. You're adding to California's housing inventory and doing a really important thing for your community and a good thing for yourself.